How important is tradition to a culture, a society, a family? Some would say that tradition is what holds us up as a people. Others may see tradition as ways to keep the powerful on top and the oppressed beneath their heels. I would guess that most people don't think too much about it. Things tend to be the way they are, not because people want the worst for others, but because that's the way they've always been. And so, two very different movies, set in two very different times, tell the story of what happens when tradition breaks down. 1971's Fiddler on the Roof tells the story of Tevye, a Jewish milkman living in a pre-World War I Russian empire, struggling to keep his family together. From the opening song, the theme of tradition is firmly planted in the film.
Tradition!
These traditions range from family roles to prayer to how they dress. His dedication to tradition comes in large part from his religious background, although he admits he doesn't even know how most of it started.
How did this tradition get started? I'll tell you. I don't know.
We're told that Tevye has 5 daughters and that the town's matchmakers made plans for the oldest to be married.
Out of the whole town, he's cast his eye on Seitel.
In 2002's Real Women Have Curves, Anna is a freshly graduated 18-year-old with ambitions of attending college while her family struggles financially.
Today's my last day of high school, Mama. I'm not gonna miss that.
Why did you quit your job?
The men of the house work landscaping, and her sister owns a dress factory where the women are expected to work. Anna has no interest in working in her family's clothing business and sees their struggle to get by month after month as something to be avoided.
Are you going to be working here full time?
No, I'm just helping out my sister until I find a better job.
Like Tevye, Anna's mother is also fiercely religious and expects her to marry in a Catholic church. Along with this pressure to marry, her mother makes remarks about her weight, saying that she'll never find a man if she doesn't slim down.
Pero que no la ve que está más grandota que el pastel. Ni te hagas las ilusiones. You'll never fit into that one. It's a size 7. Oh, no. A mother knows the right man for her daughter.
Mom, you're so old-fashioned.
Anna has no desire to marry. However, unlike Anna, Tevye's daughter, Seitel, does have a strong desire to marry and carry on the traditions of her family's faith. The only thing is, she doesn't want the help of a matchmaker. She has a childhood friend with whom she has fallen in love.
Times are changing, Reb Tevye. The thing is, over a year ago, your daughter Seitel and I gave each other our pledge that we would marry.
And after a hysteric Seitel begs not to marry an older man, Tevye agrees to break tradition and allow his daughter to marry for love.
Well, children, when shall we make the wedding?
This is the first break in tradition that we see in this film, but we'll get back to that later. Anna's outside force comes in the form of her high school teacher, played by George Lopez. He encourages her to continue her education and has written a letter of recommendation to Columbia University.
What do you mean you're not going to college? There are scholarships, grants, financial aid, all that stuff we've been talking about all year.
He's constantly telling her how intelligent and capable she really is, even visiting her house to convince her to go.
Mr. Guzman, of course we want Anna to get educated, but we need her to work now. She can go to college later.
Her mother, however, sees her desire to leave home and attend a prestigious university as a betrayal to the family, as if leaving California to attend an Ivy League school on the other side of the country would be abandoning them.
No es justo. Yo trabajo desde la edad de 13 años. Ana tiene 18 años. Ahora le toca a ella.
This is where the two films deviate. Whereas Tevye is presented as a loving father who only wants the best for his daughters, Anna's mother is only ever manipulative and verbally abusive towards Anna. Where Tevye sees his unhappy daughter and agrees to let her choose her own way, Anna's mother feigns sickness in an attempt to keep her close every time she shows signs of leaving. However, both Anna's mother and Tevye fear the breaking down of tradition. So what happens when these characters break tradition? Well, when Seitel marries a poor tailor instead of a wealthy butcher, their wedding is raided by local authorities, and their homes and shops are destroyed. Although these two events are largely unrelated, Tevye thinks differently. He was apprehensive to break his agreement and reject the match for this very reason. Well, maybe not this reason, but he knew something bad was going to happen.
Orders are orders. Understand?
Sorry for the super awkward transition here, but I really didn't know what to do.
Your daughter's been accepted for admission to Columbia University with a full scholarship.
When Anna tries to tell her mother that she wants to go to college but is refused, she decides to rebel in other ways. And although her mother told her that she would get pregnant if she had sex, that ended up not happening. In fact, nothing happens. There are no consequences.
You lost your virginity, didn't you? You're not only fat, Now you're a puta! You better not get pregnant and embarrass me.
Soon, Tevye's second daughter, Hadal, is ready to marry. Only this time, he's a radical.
Girls are people.
A radical.
Go away.
They love each other.
Love? Terrible. He's a radical.
When Tevye tells them that they can't, he's met with defiance.
We are not asking for your permission, only for your blessing.
After some thinking, Tevye grants them his blessing and permission to marry, still looking up toward God, and hopes that he won't punish them for this further break in tradition. Meanwhile, Anna has agreed to begin work at her sister's factory, and she learns how little they're making off the dresses compared to their retail price. She finds out that they don't have enough money to finish their order, and the buyer is refusing an advance on the dresses.
We just lost 4 seamstresses. How are we going to finish this order?
She convinces her sister to confront the buyer, and almost loses the sale entirely when she badmouths the woman in Spanish.
Es peor que lo que dijiste. ¿Dijiste algo, Estela?
No. Can't you keep your mouth shut?
I was just trying to help Estella.
After learning a valuable life lesson about being respectful in business dealings, she's able to convince her father to loan her sister the money to finish the order. Anna also gets her fill of working in a hot factory and decides to work in her underwear. She takes this opportunity to embarrass her mother and, at the same time, promote body positivity to the older women working around her. They all follow her lead and compare things like rolls, stretch marks, and everything else that a woman would typically feel self-conscious about. Because for the women in her family, shame is an important part of being a woman. Back in Russia, Tevye's communist son-in-law has decided that he must fight for freedom in Kiev. This goes about as well as the protests in Russia might. After he's arrested, he sends word to Hadal that he's being held in a prison in Siberia. She decides that she must be with him, and so Tevye accompanies her to a train and says goodbye for what may be the last time in either of their lives. We, the audience, could only imagine the thoughts running through his head of what may have been if only his daughter had stuck to tradition. Throughout Fiddler on the Roof, we are told multiple times that the world is changing. The tailor says it.
Times are changing, Reb Tevye.
Hadal's communist husband says it.
Our ways are changing all over, but here.
The newspapers say it.
What's the matter with you? Why don't you ever bring us some good news?
It's not my fault. I only read it.
Everywhere, traditions are breaking down. Men and women dance together. Young people choose who they'll marry. Governments are being challenged everywhere, except the little town of Anatevka. Surely now is the most important time of all to keep to traditions. Unfortunately for Tevye, that was not the thinking of his third daughter, Hava. She allowed herself to be courted by a Christian man, a man brought up by the very people taught to hate and oppress the Jews. So, when Tevye finds out that the two of them have been seeing each other, he draws his line in the sand. He will not have his family take up with the likes of them.
The world is changing, Papa.
No, some things do not change for us.
But when the couple elopes and Tevye finds out, he tells his wife that she is dead to them. They are to go on as though she never existed.
Well, go home, Goldie. We have other children at home. You have work to do. I have work to do. Go home.
When Hava presents herself to Tevye, she begs him to accept her and her new husband. She pleads for understanding, but he won't give any. Try as he might, he cannot accept the man that she has married.
Accept them? How can I accept them? Can I deny everything I believe in? How can I turn my back on my faith?
And in the most emotional scene in the movie, he leaves her crying in the mud.
No! No!
But Papa!
No! No!
Papa!
No!
We're soon brought to the endings of both of these films. Tevye has gone on living his life, making his deliveries. Anna is accepted to Columbia, and her father is given his blessing for her to attend. The world catches up with Anatevka, and they are forced to leave their homes and scatter throughout the earth. Some go to Chicago, some to Jerusalem. All must somehow make it on their own to a place that they will likely not be wanted. Anna's mother refuses to see her off. As far as she's concerned, this is just another day. She has nothing to say. So where do we land on tradition? How important is it to continue the practices of your family? At what point is it right to break from tradition and follow your own path? At what point is it acceptable for a parent's grief to overwhelm them, knowing that things they hold sacred and personal will not be carried on by their children? History tends to remember those who broke tradition for better or for worse. I would imagine that for every Anna of the world changing their fate and starting new traditions, there are plenty of Teviers that just want to make a life, simple as it may be, for themselves and their families. And that's okay. Not everybody has to change the world. So what's the point? Well, I don't really know. I just thought that this was an interesting comparison. Now, there is a ton to both of these movies that I couldn't even begin to dig into, so definitely if you haven't seen them yet, go watch them. They're both great films. Definitely worth watching. If you like the video, like, subscribe, notification bell, all that jazz, comment. Peace.